I'm a World Eaters player, and I was so hopeful that we would get Butcher Surgeons, because Butcher Surgeons is like one thing that we kind of need for... It's one thing that like a lot of World Eater players want, and it just kind of feels that it would fill a massive void as well that we don't really have. Hey everyone, so Games Workshop recently did their end of year preview and I was really excited to watch it, so let's jump in and check it out. So one thing they've kind of started doing in the last few years is they'll release like board games that are, you'll get like miniatures in them which can be used in the games themselves outside the board game, but it kind of gives you like an introductory like spin-off to those games. So Warhammer Quest is like one of the more current ones. It's based in Age of Sigmar. So we'd kind of seen bits of it before, so it wasn't really like a wow factor to it. Some of the miniatures look pretty cool though. So you've got Edmark, who had been shown before. A very cool looking human character. You got Bren, who I believe they hadn't. I believe the ones they'd shown was Edmark, Bren, and Inara, who is the next one we'll look at. Bren is kind of like your kind of like mercenary character. Inara, I'm not quite sure what she'll do, but I believe she'll have like some sort of water-based magic, like probably like a cleric type character. You've then got Dron, who is a dwarf. Very nice and simple. There is more characters. I'll go over them here. So those are like the main ones that kind of shown before. So nothing too like wow there. But then you've got Kelthanor, who is the Forest Prince. I'm not quite sure what he is meant to be, but he looks kind of cool. And he seems to be like the ranger type character. You've got Drasha, who is probably more kind of like my interest. He seems to be like sort of like a druid, can shapeshift and whatnot. Pretty cool. And then you got Jacobus, who is another wizard type character that has like a little familiar pet as well. Pretty cool, pretty cool. Then started showing off some of the kind of like the enemies that you'll fight in it. So you've got Gelgus Pust, who is a demon prince of Nurgle. Very cool looking model. I don't play Nurgle. I've got a friend that does, so I don't know whether it's something he'd pick up to use. I think if he did, I did speak to him briefly about it, but it doesn't seem like he'd be too interested in buying like the whole board game, so he'd probably just pick up bits that he liked. I think Gelgus Pust is pretty cool looking though. Belga, the Cyst Witch. Interesting model. Interesting model. I don't know if it would get much use outside of Warhammer Quest, but it is a nice model. Molgoth the Cleaver. Cool looking model. Cool looking model. Look at that big beefy arm. Again, cool looking, but I don't know if it'd get much use outside of the outside of Warhammer Quest. And then you got Shaman Foulhoof, who I think could make, you might see some sort of use in a Beasts of Chaos army as like one of your shamans, especially if you're kind of like trying to play into that Nurgle aesthetic. I think he's quite nice, quite a decent looking model. You've then got Cankerborn, which are demons created from the land itself. Probably wouldn't see them outside of Warhammer Quest. Blight Templars, you might, I believe Age of Sigmar has something similar, so they are some good options. You've then got Pox Wretches, which are essentially, they're just like an alternative form of Poxwalkers, so could make for a good proxy for Poxwalkers. Pretty nice, pretty nice. And then you've got one that I was kind of happy to see. I wouldn't personally get them, because I don't play Nurgle, but Pestigors. So Pestigors are a unit of Beastmen of Chaos that they used to have models back in like 5th and 6th edition, but you don't really have them anymore, so it was really nice to see them. And then Maya Kelps, I don't think they'd get much play outside of Warhammer Quest, but it looked like a pretty good board game. I personally probably wouldn't play it unless like my friend was like really adamant about giving it a go, then we'd probably like pick it up and play it together. But yeah, I think it's a good start for people that kind of want to dive into Warhammer, but not for me. So next up we had Age of Sigmar, and this was just basically like a massive upgrade for Nurgle. So they've already got some Nurgle stuff in Age of Sigmar, but they released more. So you've got Festus the Leech Lord, which is a very cool looking character on a giant leech. Very cool looking. Nice to see them get like a new named character. Very, very cool. You've then got the Sloven Knights, which are a cavalry unit of knights. Pretty cool looking. I do like the horse faces as well, especially this one with like the weird deformed tongue. I think it looks really cool. You've then got Putrid Blight Kings, which from my understanding are like some sort of spellcasters. At least that was my understanding, but they have very like non-spellcastery weapons. So yeah, I don't know. Seems interesting. They do look cool. You then got the Rot Swords, which seem to be similar to the Blight Knights from the Warhammer Quest. So potentially you could get the Warhammer Quest and use them as proxies for Blight Knights. And then you've got more Pestigors, which is just fantastic. So I think some of them look like really cool, like this one with his fat grotesque belly. Really cool. Obviously like warts and bile and everything everywhere. Looks really cool. But it's nice to see Pestigors kind of get like an updated model, sprue. And then you've got the Maggot Kingdom Nurgle, which is like a update book. It also contains, I didn't know that, it also contains rules for the characters from Warhammer Quest. And there's also a new spearhead, which gives you like a starter army for them, which is pretty nice. And then you've got the new regiment as well, which is I think this is the equivalent of like a battalion, and this is the equivalent of like a expansion. But you've also got the Blighted Wells book, which is, it's kind of like a few battle packs, battle plans. I'm not too sure on it, to be honest. I feel like it's more for like narrative stuff, but I don't think that Age of Sigmar was that big, the announcements, but it was nice for like Nurgle players. They then kind of showed off some of the Warhammer animations. So you got like different ones that are like fantasy and 40k. I don't really care for this, to be honest, because you need Warhammer Plus, and I don't have Warhammer Plus, so I'm not too bothered about like new animations and stuff. So I'm sure, so I've watched like the secret level Warhammer 40k video, which was pretty cool, and I wouldn't mind watching more stuff like that, but I also can't be asked to subscribe to something else just to watch them. So I think it's fun for people that, I think it's like good news for people that like that kind of stuff, but not really for me. Then we had the Horus Heresy. So Horus Heresy got quite a lot, which was nice to see. So they got Cataphractii Terminators and Breacher Squads. So Cataphractii Terminators are really nice. I'd love to see them in 40k as well, because I feel like they've got such a nice armor design that you don't really see. Well, very nice, very nice. Then you've got the Breacher squads, which are basically like, you know, big Space Marine dudes with giant shields and guns. Very nice, very nice. You don't really have anything that's equivalent to this in 40k, so it'll be interesting to see how they kind of play. You've then got the Siege Assault battle group, which it's kind of like a battalion, so it kind of gives you everything you need to start playing that specific faction, which is pretty nice, pretty nice. Following that, they also announced for Horus Heresy the Skitarii Battle Pilgrims, which are pretty damn cool looking, in my opinion. They got the like whole robot mecha thing going on. You've also got the Pilgrim Marshal they showed off, which is like a character to lead them, which is nice, and the Voltarox Stratus Automata, which is like a giant flying thing. Is the best way to describe it. So yeah, it looked pretty good. They also did the Skitarii battle group, so you can actually pick it up and start playing them, which is pretty nice. I'm not too knowledgeable about Horus Heresy because I looked at it briefly for some of the World Eater stuff, mainly for like considering to pick it up to convert for 40k, but I know they previewed about a half a year ago, they previewed a new Angron and Latara Sarin models, so I'll probably look to pick up Latara when she comes out to run her in 40k as like a I'm gonna pick her up and run her as like a Jackal champion basically. But I think some of this stuff can be converted quite easily for 40k, which is pretty nice. You got the new Skitarii book as well, so pretty good for Horus Heresy. They're eating well, they're eating good. And then you've also got a bit more for Horus Heresy, the Saturnite. Oh no, this is Legions Imperialis. So this is like the smaller scale stuff where you have like a large army, but it's on like, I think it's like 15mm or something. So you got like the Saturnite Heavy Assault Cadre, the Saturnite Dreadnoughts. You got new Arachne weapon platforms. You got the new Saturnite battle group as well, which just gives you everything you need to basically start off with a Saturnite style army, which is pretty good. You got the Legion super heavy tanks as well, which is pretty cool, very nice looking. And then you've got the Legionnaires Astartes combined arms battle group, which is another kind of like battalion starter set to help you kind of get into the game. Oh, and the Solar Auxilia combined arms battle group. So they did quite a few new battle groups for it, so it gives people like multiple start points for the game, which is pretty nice, because I do feel like Legion Imperialis is like one of the harder games to get into. And then you got the new Ruin of the Salamanders journal. So pretty solid stuff for Legion Imperialis. It's nice to see it get so much, considering it doesn't really get noticed that much. So it was nice to see. Then you got the Horus Heresy. Sorry, give me 1 second. Sorry, I just needed to sneeze. So you've got the Horus Heresy saga in a new curated series, which is a butcher book going over Horus Heresy, which is quite nice. And it's just kind of, I guess it's just a selection of books put together to kind of like tell different stories throughout the Horus Heresy, because they have a lot of books about Horus Heresy. So that's quite nice, because it gives you a good starting point if you're interested in the lore. Then you've got the Necromunda stuff. So Necromunda is, I kind of wanted to get into it before, because I feel like it's a good thing. Like, it's an interesting thing to get into because it's all just gang wars, but you kind of play it like I've seen that you can kind of play it over like a campaign against other people, and you kind of like recruiting new gang members and stuff over the period of the campaign. You're losing gang members are getting better, stuff like that. So they've got a new character coming out called oh my god, I can't even say it. Ostium Aranthus, the Divine Prince. I think that's how you say it. Got a interesting looking head underneath the helm. And then you've got new Palatine Justicars. There are some new models for them, which is quite nice. And then you've got new squats as well, because squats was like one of the newer Necromunda gangs that were added. So it's quite nice to see that they're getting some new additions. And they're also getting a book that kind of goes over the new stuff as well. So that's pretty cool. I would like to try and get into Necromunda at some point, but I don't feel it's like I don't feel there's enough people around me that play it, so I probably would hold off until I found people. But I do like the idea of it. I played the Necromunda PC game when it came out last year, I think it was. It was pretty cool. Pretty cool. I enjoyed it. Right. Next we have the 40k stuff. So 40k got a decent amount of stuff. I'm still a bit disappointed, but I'll say why when we get to the end of it, because it has got 2 pages. So you've got a new Leagues of Votann character, which is pretty cool because Leagues of Votann got some new stuff earlier in the year. And then they didn't, I think they had like 1 or 2 characters, so it's nice to get another one. And this guy is kind of like more focused on dealing with like orcs and stuff. He's meant to be like battle hardened against like orcs and fighting them all the time. So he's probably going to have some sort of unique roles that help him against orc specific opponents, or, you know, I forgot the word they use for the aliens, like against like aliens in general, other than like Imperials. But yeah, he looks pretty cool. I like the way he's just kind of got the orc head. They also did announce 2 new Tau special characters. They're actually a combined special character, so it's going to be like a box set with both of them in and 2 drones. They were, from what they were saying, there was originally like 3 of them, but 1 died, so now it's just the 2 of them. But they just kind of like fight for whatever cast of Tau need their help at the time. They're not like specific to any cast, so you can run them in any Tau army, which is pretty nice, and they look pretty cool. I'd be interested to see like what kind of color schemes people go on them, but yeah, they look pretty nice. And then they've got the Tyrannid Prime with a Lash Whip. So nice and simple, Tyrannid Prime with a Lash Whip. Because they needed one with they needed a model of it, basically. So nice and simple. Those were kind of like the...
Why are we still here?
Walker!
Just to suffer.
Oh. Why is it using those emotes? Okay, I need to fix that. Thank you for the sub, Walker. Hope you're doing well. I don't know why it used those emotes, but I'll have to check later and see why it's done that. So they were some pretty good announcements for like new characters. Hey, thank you for the follow. Yeah, they were some new characters that got added. Pretty nice. I'm sure Tau, Votann, and Tyrannid players are pretty happy with them. I thought you didn't know. So the way I've had to run it now, Vorkar, is I've got pre-roll ads. but I've got like 30 seconds of ads every hour, because that's like the lowest amount of ads I can run. If I try to run, because I tried obviously like running 3 minutes to get rid of the pre-roll, but I don't like it, because I feel like it's not fair that you're getting either 3 minutes of ads every hour, or, you know, a minute and a half every half an hour. It's too much. So I kind of just bit the bullet. Like, no one likes pre-rolls, but it's between running pre-rolls or running like 3 minutes of ads, and I'd rather just go for like the bare minimum, because I don't think there's a way to actually turn them off. I'll have to look into it, but I don't think there is, which is a bit unfortunate. But yeah, I think League of Votann, Tau, and Tyranid players are going to be happy with these new additions. I don't care anymore. That's it. You just keep subbing to me, Walker. Keep giving me your money. And then we got some more 40k stuff announced. So you've got Titus from Space Marine and Space Marine 2. He's actually being brought in properly now. So we did get a model of him earlier in the year when Space Marine 2 came out, but they're actually bringing him in properly now. So this kind of model takes place after Space Marine 2, where he is now a captain. So he's back to being a captain in Ultramar. He is, I believe, captain of the 2nd Battalion now. And he also has the Wardens of Ultramar, which is a command group that he leads. So you'll be able to get him and the command group in a box set. So you got some pretty cool characters. You've got this dude, I forgot his name, but he was one of the characters that helped you in Space Marine 2, which is pretty cool. You've also got this dude who he helps Titus in the secret level animation, which is pretty cool. I believe he's the one that originally brought Titus in as a Space Marine, like to become one. You've then got like some humans that are helping. So you got like 4 of them that kind of like help Titus out. So pretty nice. Pretty solid squad. Titus looks really cool. I like the cloak he's got as well. Very nice. And he's got his chainsword. Can't go anywhere without it. Then they announced Necrosaur Amentar, which is a new Necron character. Very cool looking. Nice to see Necrons kind of get some more characters, because I don't feel they've got too many right now. But very nice. And they also announced a new battalion come in, which kind of, I wouldn't say it's like a big battalion, because it's very much like a small one, but you get a bunch of like Scorpec destroyers, Hexmark destroyers, Obsidian destroyers, and heavy destroyers, and some attendant plasma scythes. So pretty nice stuff. Gives them an extra boost to their army. I'm not a Necron player, so it doesn't really work for me. And then they also announced Catan Shard of the Nightbringer. So this was kind of revealed earlier in the year. It looks cool. It's nice that they're getting a new model for the Nightbringer, but it's not like a big shock thing, because it was kind of like leaked earlier in the year, like a lot earlier in the year. So yeah, it's cool that they're getting it, but yeah. And then you've got like a narrative expansion, because the whole like backstory for Titus now is he's become the leader of the 2nd Legion, the captain for the 2nd Legion, and he's been tasked with trying to reclaim the 500 worlds that Ultramar controlled. before, well, like, because they ended up like losing some, whatnot. So he's been tasked with like going back to reclaim them. So it was pretty cool. But I'm a World Eaters player, and I was so hopeful that we would get Butcher Surgeons, because Butcher Surgeons is like one thing that we kind of need for, it's one thing that like a lot of World Eater players want, and it just kind of feels that it would fill a massive void as well that we don't really have. But unfortunately we didn't get anything, so kind of sucks. However, I am more of an Old World player, right? Old World is like my main game right now, and I mainly play Grand Cathay, which is getting a bunch of new stuff, and honestly I am so happy, because it is stuff, there was a lot of stuff that I wanted to see, and we're pretty much getting all of it. So one of the things that Grand Cathay really needed was a mage on foot and horse. So we're getting a mage on foot and horse. Honestly, it's been so rough trying to play an army where you need a mage on foot or horse, and you don't have access to. Yeah, this is all confirmed. They said it's coming late winter, so probably around end of February or start of March time we'll get this Old World stuff. But this was like, so you can technically get access to mages as a Grand Cathay player, but you have to play Jade Fleet, and it's a master mage, which is an Empire mage. They're all right. So basically in 2,000 points I run one as a level 1 wizard with illusion, and I just take glittering robe, because glittering robe is the signature that if you cast it successfully, the wizard and any unit they're in, any enemies trying to attack them till your next turn. Balthazar girl is not no, fuck off. He's scum. So the glittering robe's pretty good. It's a -1 to hit on that unit until your next turn, which is pretty solid. That's kind of how I play the mage in my army in 2,000 points, but I would like to actually have a Cathay specific one, because the Empire stuff doesn't benefit from like your Cathay rules as well. They benefit from some, but not all of them. So it would be nice to have them fully benefit. So getting a foot and horse mage is really nice, and because it's an Astromancer and not a Shugengan, it means that you can kind of have the different profiles, and it's not a huge issue. Have you seen Tariffs both go ship posts? No, I have not. You can send them over if you want, and we can give them a watch. But I'm curious to see what their stats are and kind of like what magic they get access to, because Shugengans get battle magic, high magic, elementalism, and illusion. And I normally go illusion because trickery bullshit. But it'd be interesting to see what they get. As long as they have access to illusion, I'm happy, because I like to run glittering robe. So you've got a few different head styles as well, which is pretty nice, and different arm styles. So pretty solid. And you also, most importantly, you also get this beautiful little dude here, which is your Raven. What is it? A Crowman. That's it. A Crowman familiar. I kind of wish familiars actually did something, because they're just like nice little models that don't actually they don't exist basically for the game. It's just more like a thing that's there. that's like doesn't block line of sight or anything. So it would be nice if they kind of gave familiars a rule, so it kind of made sense to run the models. But it's nice to get a crowman at last because we don't have any. Then we got my personal favorite thing, the one thing I wanted to see: crane gun teams. I love the crane gunners, right? They're probably my favorite unit in Warhammer 3, and it's cool that we finally have them as a unit coming out. We've kind of got crane gunners with the sky lanterns because it's like one of the default options, but it is nice to have them as an actual unit instead. One sec. Okay, I'll check that in a sec, Volker. Yeah, no worries. So crane gunners, I'm looking forward to getting them. I'm probably gonna run a unit or two of them because they're so cool. They're just basically like medieval fantasy sniper rifles. But the actual units, they have like the massive shield in front to like help steady the gun. So it's going to be cool to see kind of like what their stats are, and see if they're actually worth using. But I'm kind of going for like a gun heavy, like ranged heavy army anyway. So the more things I can get that do like ranged fire is kind of what I want anyway. So I'll definitely be running a squad or two. We've then got the Iron Hail Gunners. So the Iron Hail Gunners, we've also kind of got access to already through the Sky Lantern. And they're basically short-range blunderbusses that just do lots of hits to a unit. So it's going to be interesting to see how these play, because they're very mobile on the Sky Lantern, but I don't know if they're going to be as mobile on foot. Because they ignore like a lot of the movement rules for guns. But it also does mention that they're able to, by fighting in ranks, they can lay down brutal volleys of fire, with their first rank hastily kneeling or lying down as the second rank unleashes its own barrage. So I believe they're going to have volley fire, which is such a big thing, especially with them being blunderbusses, because they do. So each one normally does D3 hits. I think they do D3 hits. So there's a good chance that you're going to be able to get a lot of shots off in a round with one squad. So I think 1 or 2 squads is going to be more than enough for these. And then we didn't just get all that. We also got Peasant Levy. So this is going to give you options for peasants, which is going to be your light infantry version, like options. So you can either build them with bows and arrows or with spears. Now, I'm a bit skeptical, right? Because I think they look really nice, especially for like peasants. But with them being light cavalry, light infantry, they're not going to have good armor saves, right? They're probably going to be light armor at most. So that's going to be a 6+ save. The spearmen don't have shields. So it would have been nice if the spearmen had shields, so they were like a 5+ save, maybe. But they don't, which kind of sucks. The archers I can kind of understand because they're archers, but I don't know why you would want to run them when you can run Iron Hail Gunners or crane. I mean, crane gunners are probably going to be like a special or rare unit, but I've got to wait and see with these. I want to see the rules before I decide if I'm going to run any or not. Especially because for infantry, I'm only running like one large block of Jade Warriors, so I don't know if I'd want to run some peasants instead or alongside them, because the Jade Warriors, they're not super strong, but they are like really good defensive wise because they're like a 3+ save in combat, and I can reroll ones on armor save fails. So I don't know if the peasants are something I'd run personally, but it all depends on like what their stats are and what they do. If I would, I might run a squad of archers just to get a bit more firepower, but I'll have to wait and see. Then they announced the Defenders of Great Bastion Army Reinforcement set. So this is going to be a battalion style box where you get everything that's shown. And it's a reinforcement, so it is a battalion box, but it's like one of them where you can buy it to like start off the army, or you can just buy it and use it on top of what you've already got. So you'll get a squad of 12 Iron Hail Gunners, 30 peasants, which can be built as spears or bows, 8 crane gunners, so you can run them as a squad of 8 or 2 squads of 4. And then you also get the Astromancer on foot and horse with the familiar. So it gives you everything new. So I'll probably look to buy it in the future, just because it's going to be the first way you get all this stuff. And I'd like to buy it, and I'd like to get it so I've got access to all that stuff, especially the crane gunners and the Astromancer. And then there's a new Arcane Journal coming out, which is, it's going to give new rules for, so it's going to have all the other rules in it for the Grand Cafe stuff that was in the first book, and I think the second book, but it's also got a new Army of Infamy called Warriors of Wind and Field. So I feel like that's going to be focused on like a peasant style army. So it depends, because if the Army of Infamy is better than the Jade Fleet, then I might go with like a peasant heavy army. But it honestly just depends what they do. And then you've just got like a nice image to show off a mix of the two battalions. But yeah, I was really happy with the announcement. Like, I'm going to pick up the book and I'm going to pick up the battalion when they go on pre-order. I don't know if I'd buy any more though, because I feel like 8 crane guns is going to be enough. Yo, Cetra's a bitch. Yeah. I feel like the crane gunners, you probably don't need any more of them, unless you maybe like another squad if you want to go like crane gunner heavy, but I feel like 1 or 2 squads is more than enough. Astromancers, you'll probably pick up a few if you want to run more mages. Peasants, it depends, honestly. If you go in, if you've got like a peasant heavy army, then obviously you'd want more, but I don't know. I don't see the value in going a peasant heavy army right now until we see the actual rules. And then obviously you've got the Iron Hail Gunners, which I probably would run 1, maybe 2 squads. It honestly depends how strong they are. But yeah, I was really happy with the announcements. Okay, that was a really cool preview. Obviously for me, I was really happy to see a lot of new Grand Cafe stuff come in, especially like I was really looking forward to crane gunners and astromancers, because they are 2 kind of core things that I feel we were missing. Having the peasants on top was really nice as well. So I'm looking forward to see what the new rules are for them and what kind of army you can build with them. Yeah, I was a bit disappointed there wasn't anything for World Eaters, but that doesn't necessarily mean we won't see something in the future. Anyway, let me know what your favorite reveal was in the comments below, and don't forget to like, subscribe and hit the bell, and I'll see you in the next one.